show you cross land.
All right, good morning, everybody. It is post-surgery day 10. I have been trying to post for basically each day of what I've done and how I've progressed from the day since I had my surgery. I feel like I'm doing really well in recovery. This morning I've been up since about 4 o'clock, 4:30, and have taken a shower, washed, bathed, got all cleaned up. Spent some time this morning cleaning the house, actually cleaned the kitchen, cleaned all the windows in the front of the house, inside and out. So thought I'd go over a few things. Today is May the 29th. I had my surgery on May the 19th. So that tells you the 10-day period that where I'm at right now. So I want to talk about the history of having one of these surgeries. It took me a great while to decide if I wanted to have it or not, if I should have it. I was apprehensive about having a surgery where they were going to go into my spine and replace a vertebrae, or not replace a vertebrae, but replace a disc, and how I would feel and what would happen. So I'm going to talk about some of the things leading up to that. Number one is my condition. My condition now compared to how I was, I can move without pain. I can walk. I can stand. I spent pretty much all morning standing where I didn't have to lean on something to get around. My condition had gotten so bad that when I went to the grocery store or anywhere, I was looking at getting a cart, something that I could lean on while I rolled around and walked. And the floor, say at Walmart or the grocery store, that concrete floor was really difficult on my back. Within like 1 or 2 aisles, I would be hurting so bad that I just wanted to go back to the car and be able to sit down to relieve the pressure. I couldn't bend over to get any relief. It had gotten so bad that nothing gave me relief. I was taking 800 milligram ibuprofen sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, just to get through the day. As long as I was sitting, I was fine, but I didn't want to get up in it. From my living room to my kitchen is roughly, let's say, about 30 paces. I didn't want to do that because I knew I would hurt so bad. Now, I can walk without pain. I can roll over in bed. If I tried to put my legs down to roll from one side to the other, I hurt extremely bad. Now I can do all of that and I don't hurt any at all. So I can walk, I can stand, I can move around. I don't have the bones grinding together like they were before. That was causing so much pain and pinching the nerve as bad as it was. And so I really feel good considering all of that was going on. So my condition is very good. Now, before I had the surgery, one thing I did, I exhausted I'm trying to rearrange my camera a little bit here. I'm trying to use my iPad versus my actual camera on my phone camera. So before surgery, exhaust all your non-surgical options that you have. What I did, I set a goal. I decided, okay, I'm going to do these exercises for 6 months. I looked at all these YouTube channels about sciatic nerve issues and how to remedy those with non-surgery options. And I did any and everything they described. This cobra pose where you lay on your stomach and push up with your hands, man, that was excruciating pain for me. I tried doing it, and that was just one thing I could not do. That it made it worse. Um, I would put my feet against the wall with my knees bent like I was sitting in a chair but laying on the floor. I got an inverted table and I would hang upside down to stretch my spine out. Um, I began doing inverted sit ups, crunches to build my core up. I was up to doing probably a couple of hundred a day. And instead of getting better, I was getting worse. I watched some of these videos that said, okay, if your pain is moving up your leg and getting to the center part of your back, then you're improving. Well, it was moving up my spine or moving up my legs to get to the center of my spine. But I got to the point where 30 minutes after I had been on the inverted table, after I had finished all my exercises, 30 minutes later, I would be hurting so bad I could not walk. It made it worse. And so I got to the point where I figured if it was making it worse, it's time to go and have surgery. Before that, I went to physical therapy. I did all these exercises they showed me to do, which now that I've had surgery, I'll do those in recovery, some of those, but to help out. But at the time, they weren't helping any at all. I think I did 26 sessions of physical therapy, and they did not improve my condition any. So then I decided, okay, let's go have a cortisone shot. I went and had the cortisone shot. Basically worked for, I want to say, let's say 3 days that I didn't feel the pain, and then it came back. And it was just as bad as it was before. Another cortisone shot wasn't going to help. So I decided, okay, well, time to look at having surgery. So then once I decided, okay, I'm going to look at having surgery, I first started talking to any and everybody I found that had had a surgery on their back and what their condition was before surgery, what it was afterwards, what type of surgery they had. I did a lot of research. I talked to a lot of different people to start with that had this type of back surgery, either whether it was a fusion. Most all of them that I talked to had the same issue at the L4 and L5 vertebrae. And the disc was either arthritis or compression of the nerve, the slippage of the vertebrae. And what my condition was that the L4 and L5 had compressed the disc, but it had also slipped forward so that it was out of line with the rest of my spine. And so basically where your spine is supposed to be straight, well, I had a portion that had slid up like this. And so where it met at, or let's do it this way, where it met, it was off center. And so the nerve that runs down through the center part of your spine was moved over to, offset. And so it was pinching it. So I'd had x-rays done. I did a MRI where they could, dissect and look at where I was at. And where you're supposed to have this round center that moves down through your spine where the nerve runs through. Mine was basically completely closed off. And so there was no light in the tunnel at all. So So I knew what my condition was, and so I looked at different types of surgery that dealt with that. I talked with people that had them, what their decisions were. The majority of the people that I talked to gave me negative feedback on it. It was the worst thing they'd ever done. They regretted they had had the surgery. They hurt worse after the surgery than they did before. If you do a fusion, then years later you'll have to do another fusion, either above or below it. There's all these horror stories. I haven't experienced any of that yet. Hopefully, I won't experience any of it. I did talk to a few people that had positive things to say about it. They were 5, 6 years post surgery. They could do what they wanted to do. They still worked out. They ran. They did all different things. Were physically fit. Where a lot of the people I talked to that had negative experiences were not physically fit. They were overweight, probably that way before surgery as well as after surgery. So that contributed to their condition. So I ruled out the negative ones, and as for what their situation was, whether it applied to me or not, and to determine whether it applied to me or did not apply to me. Some people just went in and had arthritis and bone fragments removed to open the spinal column out and make it larger and relieve the pressure, whereas they didn't have to have a disc implanted or rods and screws, etc. I talked to a good friend of mine that it basically they opened his back up, put 14 inches of rods and screws in his, and he had, I think he was on his third surgery, but he just progressively got worse, and he was in his 70s, and so it would work for a while, and I think he just really had a bad situation, but he was doing better. He had to have surgery in order to improve his condition from what it was, and so that's what he did. So I talked to others that had surgery. I knew what my condition was. I had seen my x-rays. I had seen my MRI. And so I knew, like when I went out on YouTube and looked at some of this stuff, I knew what to compare to see, is it the same as mine or is it different, or, what I can do. I exhausted my non-surgical options. So I did exercises for 6 months. I set a limit. I said, okay, I'm going to do this for 6 months and see if it helps me or not. At the end of 6 months, I had not improved. I did a cortisone shot. That didn't improve me. And so I knew, okay, my next step was to have surgery. So then I started researching doctors. After I had talked to different patients that had this type of surgery and got their feedback, then I decided, okay, let's look at who to have surgery, where to have it, what type of doctor to use. The first thing I looked at, some of these people went to orthopedic surgeons to do the surgery. From the feedback I got, dealing with the nerve issues, the spinal column, etc., I decided to go with a neurosurgeon. I felt like that was a better option. I did go talk to an orthopedic. I talked to a couple of neurosurgeons. Everybody that I spoke to recommended surgery for my condition. It was just a matter of how they were going to do it and what they were going to do. So I researched doctors. I decided, okay, who do I want to do this? Who do I want to trust to go in and cut me open and operate on my back? And so I finally, a lot of people told me to go to. I live in central North Carolina. an hour north of Raleigh. So I was an hour from Durham, from Duke Hospital, Raleigh hospitals. And so I talked to surgeons in those areas. Plus, another thing I want to mention, make sure that they're in your network for the doctors that you go through see for your insurance, to make sure your insurance covers it. So, I did not feel comfortable going to Duke Hospital, basically because my father had several issues. He always went to Duke, and one of the last things they did was put a pacemaker defibrillator in, and it was contaminated. So he got an infection from it, which basically almost killed him. And then we learned that he had cancer, and so he ultimately died from that versus the infection. But we just had some negative experiences with the surgeries and with some of the doctors there. And so I didn't feel like just because it was Duke Hospital, it was the best place to go. It's a research hospital. They're up to speed on a great deal of things. They have some great doctors there. But I wanted to look at other options before I decided, hey, I'm going to go to Duke. And so I started searching around, and I found this one particular surgeon, neurosurgeon, that was recommended. I talked to a couple of people that had surgeries with him, and they all spoke highly and said he did a great job. So I went, set an appointment, went and talked with him, and I took my MRI and my X-rays, and they reviewed them, and then they called me and set up an appointment. So I went and talked to him, and he met with me. He sat down, and that was another thing that I wanted to have a doctor, a surgeon that was going to sit down with me to meet him. I've had shoulder surgery and had a hernia repair. But those two, I saw the surgeon afterwards, but they couldn't take the time to speak to me beforehand, and I wasn't going to do that again. I wanted to have somebody that was going to cut me open, talk to me beforehand, and so that's what I did. I went and sat down, I talked with him. He explained, initially what he felt like I needed to have done. And at the time, they wouldn't do the surgery because I'd had a stroke. So he said we had to wait 6 months before he would consider doing consider doing the surgery because of the stroke. So I continued doing exercises through that 6 months to see if I would improve. I didn't. So at the end of the 6 months, I said, hey, it's time we go do this. So I called him up and I set a second appointment. And I had a list of questions that I wanted to ask him. And so when we started meeting, again, he pulled up my charts and pulled up my MRI. And I told him, I've been watching YouTube videos of different surgeries. I wanted to know exactly what he intended to do, how he was going to go about doing the surgery. And so we had a good conversation. One thing I asked him, which I wanted to know, how often did he do these surgeries? And I found that at the time, he told me around 400 a year, which is, a couple a week, 2 or 3 a week, etc. Well, the day of my surgery, he did 3, and I was the third one that he did that day. So anyway, I'm very pleased with him. I think he did a great job in what he did, and so I've been happy with it. So make sure you ask a lot of questions to find out. Now I want to try and pull up on the screen here. I'm going to show you basically how he went about this surgery. So let me turn this around and see if we got this showing on here. So this camera is reversed because of how it is. But basically, this is my body, and this is the right-hand side of my body. I'm sure on the camera, because I'm doing a facing camera view, is showing from the left. But he asked me that day of surgery, where I hurt the most, and I'd been hurting on the right side. So this is the reverse of my body. This is the right side. And so he did a lateral interbody fusion, which basically that means that he went in on my hip, above my hip on my right side, and he went across to the center part of my back. So he basically come in from over here, and I mean literally on my side is where the incision's at. And he come across to the center. Well, this is where he took the compressed disc out. He removed as much as it as he could. He didn't go on the left side and come in. He removed everything that he could from the right side. And so once the disc was removed, they had a type of machine that's laser guided, and it basically did incisions, and it put a screw up here and a screw down here with a rod in the middle, and a screw up here and a screw down here on the left side with a rod, going up and down, perpendicular. I assume, I haven't talked to him yet to have everything explained, but I assume when he went in from this lateral right side, he went across, removed the old disc, and put a new titanium disc in place. And this titanium disc, he showed it to me, and it has set screws in it that you can actually expand to make it larger. You can't get but so small, but it makes it larger to match what my spinal column disc were, so that it would expand out the disc so that I could, he can get the disc in there and replace it, and I could be able to move without my muscles, without the bones rubbing together. So that was what we did. Let's see if we can get situated back here again. That was what he did. That was the surgery that was done. And so now I am, get up a little bit. So now I am moving, getting around. I'm going to go walking here in a minute. So I just wanted to go through that and like I say, give you an update. I was well pleased with my surgery. And another thing in the surgeon, the hospital I went to was a smaller hospital. He used a staff in the operating room that he used through all of his surgeries, so they were accustomed to what he was going to do, how he was going to do it, how he would handle it. I felt comfortable in the surgical equipment being sterile, which was not the case at Duke with my father anyway. So I was comfortable when I went in that day in doing it. I was apprehensive about doing the surgery, and I felt like my pain was going to be a lot worse than what it was after surgery, post-surgery. But it hasn't been. It's been fairly good compared to what I was anticipating. I've still got a little bit of swelling in my back where the rod and screws have been put in, more so on the right side than the left. I go back to the doctor June the 5th, and we'll talk to them about that surgery and what they did, and I'm sure let them look at my back to see why, I'm having the puffiness that's around it. Hopefully it won't be there forever. I was hoping that, once this is done, the swelling goes down. You won't even be able to tell other than a few minimal scars that they had gone in and put anything in there. Right now, I've kind of got a bulge, at least on the right side. So we'll see how that progresses as time goes on. But otherwise, I'm very happy I did the surgery. I feel very good. I'm able to walk without pain. That's a wonderful experience. People don't understand just how it changes your life when you try and walk and it hurts just to move, standing up. Now I can stand. I mean, I would literally just watch people walking and think they don't realize just how uh, beneficial they are to be able to walk without hurting. And I was at that point. And so now that I can move around and walk and do things again, I'm looking forward to being able to go walking, go walk with Wanda around the golf course, and hopefully go back sailing at some point, get back on the sailboat and go. And when we get to the islands in the Bahamas, be able to get out with her and go walk around the island and look at things and simply not have to walk 100 feet and sit down somewhere because that's how I got. So I'm doing great. I'm glad I had the surgery, and I look forward to continuing to improve, and hopefully at the end of 6 months is it's the natural healing time that the doctor gave me. So in 5 or 6 months, I hope to be out running and jogging and lifting weights and doing all the things that I was doing before this started. So hopefully I'll be at that point. I feel like I'm going to get there sooner than the 5 or 6 months, but I don't want to push it. I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I want to take my time in doing what I need to do to get there. And so I'm going one day at a time. So anyway, that's day 10. So we'll talk to you later.